Wait, am I supposed to say
No,
that?
okay, be yourself, man. Welcome back to another episode of Time for Mental Health. Time for Mental Health is a podcast where we aim to normalize the sharing of mental health experiences. I'm your host, Fabian. Join with me, we have Viaano, we have Delia, and also Randall. Randall will share with you more about what he does in a while. But before that, if you like mental health related content, do remember to subscribe to the channel. If you like what you're hearing, like the video. If any questions, leave them in the comment section below. So Randall, would you like to tell the audience a little bit more about your journey or your story?
Okay, so it's a long story. Where should I start?
Maybe start with how you have this idea of creating Books Beyond Borders.
Okay, so maybe I bring you guys a little bit further down when I was working. So I've never volunteered in my life. I've never made a donation. So this whole world of non-profit social work is very far off from my life. I've always wanted to. I think my main goal previously was to become an entrepreneur, make a lot of money, and then live like Bill Gates and stuff like that. It was never part of I want to change the world or do something for the society. So it was back in I think 2015, 16 where I was kind of going through some very difficult point in my life. Mm-hmm. I told one of my good friends that I wanted to enough is enough. I want to change something. I'm kind of pissed off with every day I'm complaining about work, about life, a lot of self-pity kind of stuff. And one day I remember on Christmas, my friend gave me a book, and on the cover of the front book, he wrote instead of having so many New Year resolutions, because New Year resolutions, they don't really work out, right? We have these 10 things on our list, and then
it's gone.
Yeah, February it's gone.
Yeah.
So he said, instead of having all these New Year resolution, why don't you just do one thing that scares you next year? So I never really spent too much time thinking about it, but the following year came 2017. I was maybe I should kind of try something that year. So a lot of people don't know. I think back then, I can't remember, I was 24, 25. I used to get very anxious about things, especially around new people, in unfamiliar places. So if you were to meet me, you would invite me, back then, 2014, 2015, put me in a scenario where you have cameras and I don't even know you guys. I would be very anxious. Yeah, just cause I'm a major introvert.
Yeah.
So I decided that, okay, this year I'm going to do something crazy. I found out that if you're willing to spend 1 to 2 weeks walking in the Himalayas, you can actually see Mount Everest. And I never knew that was possible. I always thought that it's going to cost a lot of money and, you got to have different permits and stuff. So I found out that's possible, and I wanted to go and experience that for myself. And I wanted to do it alone. And yeah, so I booked a one-way ticket to Nepal.
That's a different level of crazy.
Yeah.
Some people just I want to do something crazy, maybe try something new or change my job. Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that I feel I could accomplish in just one trip. First of all, it's far enough that it's kind of I'm trying to get away from all the Monday morning meetings and the emails and stuff, because I was working in a startup back then, and I think it was 2 years since I got a break. Bad burnout. So I wanted to go somewhere far enough where there's no internet and anyone could reach me. And so that was a perfect place. It's one of the highest places in the world. It's somewhere where it's very unfamiliar to me, and also I get to push my physical limits. So I spent about 13 to 14 days walking alone. I didn't get a guide, nothing. So I think mentally and physically, that was a challenge I was looking for. And I wanted to spend some quiet time with myself to figure out what's next in my life, what's the next chapter. So I didn't have any expectation, just did a bit of Google search on research on how that's going to go about. And then, I just flew to Nepal. So that was the most impromptu decision of my life, but it's also one that have kind of changed the trajectory of where I am right now that I'm here sharing my story. So I'm a big advocate of doing something that scares you, even small things every day or every year, because that was one thing that changed my life. Yeah, 14 days. I spent actually one entire month in Nepal, 2 weeks just kind of like traveling around, but another 2 weeks in on the trek to Everest Base Camp.
Yeah.
So it's a 14-day trek. I didn't get a guide, and I went like in the middle of December. So I've never actually experienced winter before. So a lot of new things for me. Yeah, I did a trek around Bukit Timah I had some dumbbells in my bag. I thought that was enough, but obviously when you get there, there's things like altitude and all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't very prepared.
Yeah.
I got lost. I got very bad altitude sickness. I remember there was one night I was hallucinating.
Yeah.
And I woke up in my cabin and I saw like people flying across my room. I was not exaggerating. I thought I saw like ghosts, and my nose wouldn't stop bleeding. And I think I was about 4,000 to 5,000 meter in altitude. And I just like my body was rejecting all the food and stuff. But I think just pure ego, I decided to kind of like push through and got all the way to the base camp. I mean, the whole journey, like physical and mental, in like how I pushed my physical and mental limit was, I think, part of the story. But I think what really changed my perspective of things was there was one day I met this young porter by the name of Madan.
Yeah.
When I first saw Madan, he was a 16-year-old porter working between like one village and another village, and he was like transporting goods. So he would carry, like the goods on his neck, and he would like move around to like the next village. And I asked him like, "Oh, do you feel tired, carrying these every single day?" And he started laughing and he said, "I used to walk 2 to 3 hours every day just to get to school, but now I have to work." And I think that was the first time I thought to myself, like, wait a minute, where do all these kids go to school? Because you don't even see like a bicycle or any schools, and they just have like yaks and farmers. And I got really curious of like this whole new world kind of opened up to me, and I started to see things very differently. Like at the first half of the trip, it was more about like the mountains and the flowers and like all the scenery. But after I met Madan, I started to notice like the mothers were very young, or the girls were in the farm. The most of the boys aren't in the village. Like they didn't have a lot of food, no clean water. So I started to notice a lot of things which was already there at the very beginning. It's just that when we are so focused as tourists, going to all these kind of places and so focused on like about me, it's all about me.
Yeah.
Then your whole worldview is very small. So after meeting him, I, for the first time, felt like the problem was not about me, but it was about maybe there are some other more important real problems out there in the world that maybe I could focus my attention to. And I felt this sense of calm and purpose. I didn't really know how to put into words yet, but for the first time I felt like, hey, I could potentially do something about it. I spent the last few years working in startups and business, and maybe I felt worthy, although I didn't know what was that. And I think throughout the next few years of building this organization was me trying to like figure out like where I am in this world, what value can I bring to the people around me and the people that I'm serving right now. And I think the whole organization is a reflection of like me trying to find that. And then
that drive, how you can express that feeling that you said you cannot explain. So that's what you're on now, that path.
I think Viaano can relate. You started with Huddle Humans and all that. It's kind of the same story.
Yeah, amazing stuff. I mean, I could resonate a lot with Randall. I thought it was really interesting. Like you said, it was 2 halves to that trip, right? It was about a month. You're saying 2 weeks. It was all about scenery. So it was about exploring the place. Then meeting that one person really changed your worldview, open up a whole new perspective, and it blossomed from there, right?
Yeah.
You realize that there's this thing inside you, that ambition that just gave birth. It just evolved, and then you are so driven to do something that makes you feel that something that you can't describe, which I also can't describe. But amazing stuff, man. Like beautiful story.
It's a journey. Even until today, like every single day, I'm still like learning something new. I learn something new about myself, and it's a long-term pursuit, right? Like every day you work hard, you change. You honestly building this organization, which I'll get more into it about what we do and stuff, but it's more than just like trying to change the world or impact the people that we are serving right now. But, actually, I feel like it changed me more than how much we have done for like the people in Nepal. Yeah. So it's a beautiful like journey of like, I would say self-discovery.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a wonderful thing. And I'm glad you feel the same. You guys feel the same in your own ways, telling stories, like giving us a platform to share our story, impacting a lot of people along the way.
How have you feel like your relationship with yourself has changed throughout the years that your organization has grown?
I definitely become more self-aware, more self-motivated. Every day I wake up, I know that it's not so much about me anymore. Everything I do, the harder I work, there's a ripple effect where I can, potentially impact a lot of people along the way. Not just in Nepal, but right now I have a small little team. I get to create jobs, get to inspire different people, even here in Singapore. So I think that made me more like motivated. Yeah. Because back then I was like, man, I hate waking up, like dread waking up and it's like leave for the Friday and then like Monday comes like Monday blues and stuff. But now it's non-existent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Now you work 24 hours every day.
no, it's a 7-day a week. But it's not work if you, as cliche as it sounds, it's you enjoy it. Yeah. It's not work. Yeah.
That's what I always say, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like work at all.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because,
Exactly.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but what Books Beyond Borders, its main initiative is to help the people in Nepal,
Yeah.
and by providing them stuff in the school area, or how?
Okay, so traditionally what we do is we give grants to schools. We raise money by collecting and selling secondhand books. We have a little bookstore in Singapore, and we dedicate 100% of our net profit. So we minus all our business expense, overheads and stuff, and we channel them as grants to like rural public schools across the country. So for example, there's a science teacher that wants to start like a science lab in their school. They don't have the funds. They can apply for a grant, and we give them a grant so that they can start a science lab. So we funded more than a dozen projects already. There are some very straightforward projects like a school. There's a bunch of students that require like school bags and materials, and the teacher just needed funds to do that. They apply for it through a proposal, and then we provide the fund. There are English teachers that want to set up like a school library. They apply for the grant, they got it. Then we help fund the project. So that's traditionally how we give out as grants. We don't like send anything over. I think a lot of people misunderstand what we do is like we collect books and then we send them over to Nepal.
Big libraries for them.
Yeah. That's
it's more than that.
Yeah, it's. I think it's not that effective to send things over. But like I've been to Nepal like almost 10 times now already, and I feel like the most impactful thing you can do and what the people really need there are just funds. They don't need like your books, your pencils and your soft toys or your clothes. They know exactly what they need. They have the solution. They just don't have the funding to do that. And I think that's what we try to do is we try to like fill that gap. Yeah, so we work directly with rural public school teachers to fill their need, because like unlike teachers in Singapore, like if they want to start a project, they can apply, like the school provide funding for the MOE has money.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not the case in Nepal.
Yeah.
Like if you're a school teacher, you're a science teacher, you want to provide materials or like science learning materials for your students, you have no funds to do that. Yeah. So what ends up is like a bunch of underpaid teachers, unmotivated, lack of resources, and then the teachers don't even turn up for school. So that's where we come in. Yeah.
But I think this Books Beyond Borders have come a long way, because at the beginning you guys were doing like carousel, right? Sell one book at one time.
Okay.
And then the business grew, and now you're able to provide funding and grants for them.
So the journey of Books Beyond Borders is funny, because when we first started the company, for the first year we were actually a charity. We didn't start out selling books. Yeah. For the first 1 year, my dream was to start a charity. And there's a big difference between a charity and a social enterprise. A charity traditionally rely on donations. So you like what I call your professional beggar. You beg for money every single year. So the first year, I put up like a video, say, we're raising money for this. We want to launch this project where we provide school bags to kids in a field village in Nepal. And I did a fundraising campaign. We raised, I think, like $8,000 in 1 week.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit. Wait, am I supposed to say
No,
that?
okay, be yourself, man.
I was like, holy shit, this is it, man. Like
Yeah.
I finally figured out like
Yeah,
the business model because
Yeah.
it's so easy to raise money. I never knew like
yeah,
it's so easy to raise $8,000 in 1 weekend.
Yeah.
Because we channeled 100% of the $8,000 to like school bags and we distributed. And I was like, holy shit, that's like, let's go for the next one.
yeah,
So the second year came about, I was like, this time I'm going to raise $20,000. And then I put up another video. And then like, it was like surprisingly much more difficult to raise the money because the people who have donated last year, chances are very little are going to like donate to you again. And that's when I really start to learn a lot about how charity works.
Yeah.
Like at the first year, a lot of people donated because of me and not so much of the cause.
Yeah.
Because think about it, right? Like
Yeah.
if you go to giving.sg or like all these like fundraising platform, like 101, there's 1,000 people
yeah,
raising money for just incredibly, great causes, you know, in Myanmar, in Cambodia and stuff,
Yeah.
but they all look the same. There's a poor kid in a school and like,
Now, which one do you donate to?
which one do you
Yeah.
donate to, right?
yeah,
And I think the most successful fundraisers are the one that like, who is raising the money, right? The cause is great, but I want to donate because like I trust you. So if Delia, you start a fundraising campaign, I'm going to donate not because of the cause, but because of you. And I think that's the number one thing I learned a lot about social causes and charities and stuff like that. And that was the first time I also actually I was very anxious after understanding that because I realized that I need to be very public. First of all, I was already very self-conscious, introverted and stuff. And now doing this, I was like, in order for Books Beyond Borders to be successful, I cannot hide behind the cause.
Yes.
I need to
put yourself out there.
put myself out there and then rally for the cause.
Yeah.
And honestly, that was something I thought about the longest. And at the first fundraising campaign, right? Like actually I put out 2 campaigns. The first one I put like raise money for students in Nepal and we didn't raise any money. And the second one I came out and talked about it and all the money came.
Oh, okay, that proves your point.
I was like, okay, people want to know who they are donating to, not
Yeah.
the cause.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this was like kind of like an internal battle with myself throughout all these years of like, if you really want this to work, you got to come out and you got to show your face. You got to talk about your story, not so much about Nepal because nobody can connect with the cause. It's too far away. But people want to hear, why are you doing this? Why do you leave your job? Like it would be boring if I sat here the whole day talking about like the children in Nepal and like I don't talk about my story.
Yeah.
Right? I think
Yeah.
people want to hear the story.
yeah,
So yeah, I think like when I realized that, then all the donations coming. But back to the point, second year, the first year, great, your family, friends support you. Second year, donations stop coming, and third year, people's like, come on, you got to get a job, man. You can't keep asking for money, right? Then like COVID hit, and I couldn't go back to Nepal because to raise money, I need stories. So I usually go to Nepal, get the stories with the content, come back, and then I create a video, raise the money. So when COVID hit, I knew that I couldn't get any more content, and I knew that it's not sustainable because we had this policy of not using any of the donations for our overhead. So I could raise $10,000, but I had no money to pay myself. I had no money to build a website because 100% of the $10,000 go directly to the schools. So it was just like, it was a great idea, but there's no business in it.
yeah.
And when COVID hit, I realized that, okay, I need to make money myself. So one of the things that I did with a couple of friends was we sold cookies. And I think we didn't even know how to make cookies. We just borrowed 3 ovens, we made cookies, and we sold them for $18 a jar. We sold out. We made
wow.
$2,000 in a week. I remembered using half of that to fund like a school library, and then the other half, like we covered our own expense for the first time. I could pay my phone bills and stuff. So I was like, wait a minute, like maybe if we don't rely on donations, because when someone donate money to you, like you need to be 100% accountable for it. But if you earn it yourself, then you can allocate part of it to cover the business expense, which if you want to scale as a business, you definitely will have overheads. So then this whole idea of like social enterprise came about. And then I thought like, okay, because I got a lot of books and I thought if I can sell my books, raise money, use the profit to cover my business expense, and then whatever that is left, I use it to fund the project. That may be more sustainable. Yeah, so what I did was I just sold my books on Carousel. And then I think for the first 3-4 months, every day I would like stand at MRT stations, like
Transactions.
transaction. And it's funny because I always tell this story. On Carousel, when you sell a book for $5, people ask $3. So I was like, come on, man. But it's powerful because like at the MRT station, I always ask people like, do you have a minute? Like, can I tell you about like the mission behind this book? And I was doing that, and it gave me a lot of confidence in practicing the pitch. And although it's $5, in my mind, like you're paying me $5 to tell my story for 1 minute, and then you buy my book, so why not? So I probably told 100, 200, 300 stories at MRT station. That's why I got so comfortable in pitching the story, and I also get to validate whether people want to buy books. I think like
it's like doing a survey.
It is right. So I did that, and I think like started out in my grandfather's bedroom. All the book donations started coming in. My grandfather, who was my first investor, he gave me like his spare bedroom when I built this whole library of like books. And then it got too crowded. Then my aunt decided to give me her like spare office to use. So I moved there and then built this whole library of books, probably like 2,000-3,000. I think that went on until like just before I moved to like where we are right now. That place got overcrowded also, and then I decided, to get my own space last year, July 2021. Is it last year? No, wait. Yeah, last year.
Last year.
So that was one thing that scared me last year, to actually put the deposit and get our own space, because it's a fixed expense. You need to sign the lease for 2 years. And when I signed the lease, we didn't have any money. We didn't have any money at all. Like, we launched our online website only last year, moved into our space, and then I think as soon as we got our space, we started to build a bit of a community. That's how I met Delia. That's how I meet people. Like, for the first time, people could come and hear the story.
Wow.
Rather than just like buy the book off Carousel or online. But like, I think that's what people yearn for, the connection, like the community.
Especially coming out of COVID. Because I love hanging out in your bookstore on like weekends. Just like the couch, and then like there's other people coming in, and we start talking about our love for books, and then you sharing your stories with like how the business is growing. Every weekend that we go, there's always new things.
So you're right. Like, getting our own space was one of the best things, but I pondered about it so long. Like, what if like nobody come? What if
there's always the what ifs.
All the what ifs. But as soon as I took the leap, signed a lease for 2 years without actually having the money, then like things just fall into place, right? Like, I think again, like there's a community, people can meet you in person, and that's where connections are made. And since then we've been just like growing exponentially. It's insane how fast we move.
Love that.
So I just have a question. Actually, just a thought, because you were talking about volunteering and you're also talking about having your own space, right? So would you say the words volunteer and money, do they always come hand in hand, or?
What do you mean?
Would you think it's better at your position right now? I think it would be better, right? That you get the books and then you sell them off for profit, and then you are better able to keep on consistently donating to the people. There's also a side for other people that can just volunteer by themselves. They don't have to spend the money.
You have like a team of volunteers.
Right. I mean, it really depends on the individual, right? Like, not everybody can start a business and like, do something that can scale. Like, I think volunteerism is great. Like, we have an amazing community of volunteers who still supports us to this day. Like, they help us set up events, run my bookstore on the weekend. It's a very tight knitted community, but not everybody wants to say like, I want to come out and start your own business, and like it takes an entire career. So again, I think it depends on like the individual. For me, like, I think first of all, like I'm very business centric. Like, I do this 50% because like I absolutely am very passionate about education, about like low income countries. But I think the other 50%, like I'm genuinely very passionate about entrepreneurship, and that's where I started. So I think it's very difficult for me to continue today if I only am just very passionate about serving the world, but I have no interest in business at all. So when sometimes I get people asking me like, oh, how can I start like a social enterprise like you and stuff? Because I want to serve like, like the homeless, or whatever stuff. And I ask them like, do you enjoy starting businesses? Because eventually a charity is also a business. A social enterprise is also a business. Like you need to have some sort of business acumen. If you just 100% like we want to serve and you have no interest in starting a business, then like maybe volunteering is better for you. Yeah. But for me, like I enjoy the business side of things. And yeah, and I think that's the reason why like, like we're still sustainable today. Yeah.
So at the beginning, when you were raising funds every year, you were working a full-time job then?
No, I left my job. So the first year I just wiped out my entire bank savings.
Oh, wow.
And it was not sustainable because like I didn't get a salary. Now I pay myself. Yeah. After 2 full years, I get a salary. Yeah. Which is so important.
Definitely.
I was so afraid to take a salary the last time because I was worried about what other people think about me. Even until today, I feel like it's quite unfair for like people who work in non-profit space, they are afraid to get a salary or like they pay themselves really low. But I think more than anything, like all these leaders should be paid fairly because we need talent in this space if you want to solve real problems.
Yeah.
And also sustainability.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's important. Yeah, but this was something that it took me a long time to kind of like get over it. Yeah.
I think it's the same analogy as like mental health thing. It's like before you can serve others, you need to serve yourself first.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. You cannot give from an empty tank.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
And looking back at whatever you have done, right? Would you have done anything different, like a sabbatical? Or?
I mean, there's a lot of mistakes I made. Yeah, I wasted so much time figuring out, not taking enough, not making decisions quicker and stuff. But it's all part of the learning process, right? Like if I didn't do what I do, I wouldn't have known this and then done that. So I think I'm heading exactly where I want to go. Everything I done had a purpose, right? So I don't think I would kind of like redo anything.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think Viaano, you can relate to this as well because you started Huddle Humans and it's been a long journey to take us to where we're here.
Well, yeah. Honestly, I resonate a lot. I mean, I just haven't been saying it. I mean, when you talk about being an introvert, putting yourself out there, been through that, still going through that. But yeah, I see a lot of similarities. I mean, I started Huddle Humans probably about 5 to 6 years ago.
Wow.
But I started it as a passion project. So I was doing it while I was in my studies, in NS, and then in my university when I was overseas in Australia. But recently I came back towards the end of last year actually. So it was November, December. That's when I really start establishing Huddle Humans as a mental health community, a global.
Full time?
Yeah, full time.
Wow,
so I've been doing it so long ago, but now it's becoming an actual thing, right?
Right.
So I definitely a lot of things that resonate.
Yeah, and it's the same thing, right? Like if you wouldn't have done like the first part of the journey, you wouldn't have like kind of like have the confidence to like say, hey, I want to do this full time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So same like you, like I wouldn't change anything because look, I made a lot of mistakes too, but if I didn't make the mistakes, I wouldn't be what I am today. I mean, like the things that I've learned, the process, which is so important, right? But yeah, the trajectory, like yourself, I feel like we're on the right trajectory. We're headed towards our goals, our vision, our mission. So that's basically us.
Yeah.
Is there anything coming up new for Books Beyond Border? Are you heading back to Nepal?
Yeah, I'm heading back in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm heading back in 2 weeks.
Wait, this is the expedition?
Yeah. It's like I call it a retreat. So so this is the first time I'm leading 6 people from Singapore to Nepal. Traditionally, what Books Beyond Borders is about is like we're a secondhand bookstore, right? We sell books and stuff, but our purpose, our why of the company has always been to support the schools in Nepal. How we do it is we raise money by selling secondhand books. Our how is going to change. Just like how we first started out by raising money through donations and then we moved to secondhand books. In the future, how we raise money will change because, I fundamentally believe that there's one day secondhand books are going to go out of place. Like you cannot raise a lot of money from that. So experience is something that I'm very passionate about, actually bringing and hosting people in Singapore to see the work that we're doing in Nepal. And so I'm hosting the first retreat, and it's very interesting. Like I think when people first hear about the word retreat, right, you think about maybe going to Bali, do some meditation and stuff like that. like something very
isolated,
peaceful, but I want to kind of reinvent what it means to have a retreat. So this retreat that I'm hosting, half of it, like our team, our crew would be supporting like a children's home run by like our local partner who we've been supporting, and they have been funding like scholarship for all these like students in this children's home like at the Everest region. And then the other half of the trip, they will all do something really difficult. So we will like go and like try to conquer a trek together, a 3-day trek up to about nearly 4,600 meters. So I would say none of them has done it before. Yeah. So we're going to push their limit a little bit. And I think like after, when they come back, like hopefully they get to experience a little bit of what I experienced, when I first went to Nepal, and then change their perspective on things, and, hopefully get to like spark something new inside them, or, spark some new thought. Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yeah. So I have to work on that, and then like with the store and stuff. So it's got quite a little bit of things on hand. Yeah. So
in future, people can join this retreat.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. This is like, I'm trying it out. But definitely I think the next one hosting is in December. So we'll see.
If this one works out well.
Yeah, if it works out well. Plus something like really interesting, for this trip there would be a Nepalese student joining this trip also.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is it in Singapore?
No, it's in Nepal.
Oh, okay.
So it's a funny story. Like I met this young boy in 2017 in the very early days in Nepal, and his name is Damu. And when I first met him, we had this habit of asking students like, if you have anything you want in the school, what do you want? And he said he wanted a first aid kit. So I was like, I was so like
intrigued.
Intrigued by that answer. I decided to go and meet him and ask him like, why did you say that? The next day we went to his school, he wasn't there. So like I called his teacher, and like I wanted to go to his house to meet him. So I got my crew to follow, and we like literally hunted him down in his village. So I've been to a lot of villages in Nepal before, but like, man, the village that he's in is so it's so like underserved. And later I learned that, like in Nepal there's different castes, right? So he's one of the lowest castes in his religion, and they call it the untouchables.
Yeah.
And when I got there, I spent I think like 2 hours talking to him and his father, and he lived in this little small hut with some pigeons, some animals. He sleep, eat, and study at the same little hut. I actually got like some photos and videos of me like just interviewing him and his dad. And I asked him like, why did you say you wanted a first aid kit? Most kids want like a volleyball and like a computer lab. Like, I want to know why. And he said like, a lot of kids, they get injured in school after playing like ball, and like because of that, they don't come to school when they don't even have like a simple thing like first aid kit. So if we don't have that, why should we ask for anything else? And I just thought that's the most precious, like the most, like he cared so much about his other students, and man, he's just so smart. Like outside his room there was a few broken radios, so we asked him like, why are there all these radios here? And he said like he picked them up from the like the recycling place, and then like he was like trying to figure out how it worked. He really wanted to study, but they only live less than a few dollars a day, and his dad was a day job laborer, and I think his mom wasn't around. And his dad said after he finished grade 10, which is about Sec 4, very high chance he would go to India to work. That's where most of the guys end up, especially from low income country community. And I told him that you're too smart, honestly, to go to India. You need to focus studying. But I just wasn't in contact with him for the next 2 years. But I told him to just study hard, and then like when it comes, you actually finish your Sec 4, and if you get good grades, like I want to make sure I support you. So like we lost contact for 2 years, but I was in contact with his teacher, and just 2 weeks ago, his teacher called me and said like he actually got top 10 in his entire school. For someone like him who had so little, and like just against all odds, like his caste, his family background, like, and he managed to top 10 in his entire school. It's just something that I was so proud of. It's a big school. It's not like a small school. There's hundreds of students. And I got a chance to speak with him, asking like, okay, what's next? What do you want to do? He said he really wanted to study, but it's almost impossible for him to study because to go to like grade 11 and 12 is like JC or Poly, you need to go to the city. You need to stay in a hostel because there's none of these in the village. In the village, you only got public school until like Sec 4. And I asked him like, what do you really want to do in the future? What's the dream? And he said like, he wanted to be a social worker. He lives in the Terai region. So in Nepal, you split. Nepal is a huge country. The top part of Nepal, it's near the Himalayas. So you meet a lot of people like, they look like Mongolians and Tibetan. And then at the bottom level, it's near to the border of India. You look more like Indians. So he's at the bottom area where he's very close to the India border. So darker skin and stuff like that. And he's never seen mountains in his life before. Even Nepal, you know, you have some of the most beautiful mountains, the Himalayas. But to him, it's like another world out there. So got a surprise, like we're getting him to the city in Kathmandu. We're arranging transport for him to go there. He's never even been to Kathmandu himself. And then he would join on this like 2-week trek with the entire Singapore crew.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so we're gonna bring him to Kathmandu. We're gonna get him like boots and winter clothes, and he get to volunteer. You know, so we're going to the mountains because like our partner work in the mountains. So he's gonna spend half of his trip volunteering with us and get to see firsthand what is it like to be a social worker. And then after we're gonna do a trek. So he's never seen mountains before. So he's just
so excited for him.
Yeah, he's just as new as what like we're gonna experience. Like the Singaporeans are gonna go. So and then during the trip, we're gonna make arrangement for him to like finish his grade 11 and 12. But also I get to spend time with him and you know, get to know him. And
can you speak their language?
He speaks English.
Oh, he speaks English.
Yeah, because he studied that in school, but you know, broken English, but it's totally fine. Yeah, but we got guides. Yeah, so we help to translate and everything. Yeah, but just to make arrangement for him to come, he had to get permission from his dad and the school and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, it's so exciting.
I'm sure it's so fulfilling for you as well.
Exactly. So I'm really looking forward to this trip. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, man. Very powerful story, man. I can't wait for you to reconnect with him. I think it'll be mind blowing, man, for him to travel out and
to think that he's from Nepal, but hasn't seen like the other side of just Nepal.
Yeah, itself. And you'd be surprised. Like Nepal is a big country, right? So to all these like students and stuff, like even Kathmandu, the main city, is like another country to them. You know, to actually like they have no reason to go to Kathmandu. Yeah, to them it's like Kathmandu is the capital of Nepal, and to even go there is like it's expensive. If you go there, where are you gonna stay? You know, they're gonna stay in a hotel or stuff like that. So it's a big country. Yeah. So there's a lot. This is why I kept going. I keep going back because there's so much to explore. Yeah.
Nice. Unfortunately, we don't have much time left. So perhaps if there's any words of encouragement or any words they want to tell our audience, our international audience.
Just do one thing that scares you, man. If there's one thing that you're afraid of, like I think like we still have a few months left this year. Like go out and just do it, man. The outcome don't really matter. It's just like just do it.
All right, awesome. We have come to the end of Time for Mental Health. Do follow us on social media. Follow Books Beyond Borders. See you guys in the next episode. Bye.